right, meetings are recorded by Franklin TV and shown on Comcast Channel 11 and Verizon Channel 29, as well as recorded by Franklin Matters. All right. And we're just going to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. We have our pledge student, Jonathan Ferrari. Come to the mic. Jonathan is a role model fifth grader. He shows enthusiasm for learning every day. He works hard and sets high expectations for himself. Equally important, Jonathan brings kindness and good humor to our classrooms each day. He's always willing to help out in a multitude of ways, often seeing a need and stepping up without being asked. His teachers say it's a genuine pleasure to have him in class. Thank you very much and welcome. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Take it away.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. You're more than welcome to stay. You can also get out of here too. Enjoy the rest of your night. All right, and as is customary, we'll also pause for a moment of silence. Thank you very much. All right, review of agenda. Does the agenda look okay to everybody?
Yes.
All right. Payment of bills is all set. Payroll, Vice Chair McNeil.
Payroll is in order.
All right, kick it over to the FHS student reps.
So, Franklin High School Theater Company had a very successful production of Legally Blonde with performances on November 17th, 18th, and 19th. The FHS band concert is December 5th at 7 p.m. and the FHS chorus and orchestra concert is December 7th at 7 p.m. We had a very successful pep rally on the Tuesday before break with performances from the cheer team, tug of war, and musical chairs. The Scope Club and Community Service Club are running a bottle and can drive until December 15th. Connect for Cancer is running a blood drive on December 21st from 8 a.m. to 2:30 at the high school. That is open to the public, and you can sign up on the Connect for Cancer's social media pages and the Google Classroom page. The next FHS PCC meeting is on Wednesday, December 6th. And yearbooks are able to be purchased now, and if you buy one before November 30th, you're able to save some money.
Tryouts for winter sports started yesterday. Good luck to all the athletes that are trying out. The first indoor track meet will be on December 7th at the track at New Balance. Boys basketball will have scrimmages on December 2nd, 5th, and 8th at the high school, and the girls will have basketball scrimmages on the 2nd and 5th at the high school. Congratulations to boys soccer, girls soccer, volleyball, field hockey, and cross country with an amazing season. Congratulations to the cheer team for winning Division I for the Fall Cheer State Championship, and congratulations to Franklin, the football team, with a great season. They ended with a Fenway football game against KP with a score of 0-35.
For news for the class of 2024, the senior banquet is April 5th, 2024 at Lake Pearl in Rentham, and graduation is set for May 31st. And the senior officers are currently working on the logistics for senior week.
For class of 2025, the prom calendar raffle fundraiser, each calendar is going to be sold for $25, and all the calendars must be sold by this Thursday. Students that sell more than 10 calendars get a free prom ticket. And the prom 3 has been voted on by the students, and that is luxury.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all very much. Any questions or comments from the committee?
Nice job to win states again.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you both very much. All right. Now, Superintendent?
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in or being here in person. So just have a few updates for you for the superintendent's report. The first being, you heard already about the Franklin Theater Company under the direction of Mr. Skylar Grossman, one of our teachers. He's our theater teacher. The amazing cast and crew put on a wonderful performance of Legally Blonde, and I had the chance to go. I know Mrs. Morano did as well, and some others, and we're really proud of our thespians for their work and the crew who put together an amazing stage. And it's a little shout out to Mrs. Morano's son, who's part of that stage crew, and he was the manager of the sets and the design. So just some amazing work happening in that area. We have a lot of amazing things happening across multiple disciplines, if you will, but just wanted to give a shout out as well. Fall sports, you heard our students recognized our fall sports teams. I would do the same. As is customary, when we have a state level competition winner, we typically try to bring them in front of the board to be recognized for that achievement. We don't take those things for granted, especially if you're a Patriots fan now. You know what it's like to have won, and we don't want to squander those moments and be celebratory when we can. So I would say that, and I know you're an Eagles fan.
I
Dutch,
am.
I understand, but
Don't hold it against me.
I won't, but, you know. Okay. Anyway, the last update I have for you is around inclement weather. I sent out a letter to all families around just inclement weather, snow days, delays, dismissals, all those things, and how those decisions are made and what types of factors go into it. So I would encourage people to look for that email just so they could familiarize themselves with that as we enter the winter season. In New England, it can change. And I've learned, you know, the news the night before can certainly project a picture that doesn't always ring true in the morning, and I think that's the challenge of a superintendent. What I will say is our Department of Public Works Director, Brutus Cantareggi, will be joining us next school committee meeting to do a brief snow presentation so we can hear about, from a town perspective, how the roads are cleared, how they prioritize work, where they're at with their team, and just for this season coming up. We haven't had a snow presentation to the school committee in a few years, so it'll be a welcomed review, and I think that'll be a lot of good information for everyone in our community as we look to move forward through the winter. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Yeah, Bruce's snow presentations are stuff of legends, so they'll be fantastic to hear. But, if we have any questions or comments from the committee? All right. Okay. Moving on. So we have a school highlight tonight. Just to kind of set the stage for the deck, we have a school highlight. We're welcomed by Mr. Evan Chelman, our principal, and Miss Amy Harvey, our assistant principal at Parmenter. They will come to the table. Following the Parmenter highlight, we are joined by two of our FHS art teachers, Miss Edson and Miss LaPlante, who will talk and present to seek approval for a trip. And then finally, we have our district assessment presentation, where we're joined by Mr. Stark and Dr. Frazier, who lead our teaching and learning group, with Dr. Rogers, who will be joining us virtually. So with that said, I'd like to kick it off with the Parmenter highlight. So please take it away.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Jagir. First of all, congratulations to everybody on the school committee. It's nice to see, you know, familiar faces and new faces as well, but just wanted to start off by congratulating you. My name is Evan Chelman. I'm the principal at Parmenter.
I'm Amy Harvey. I'm the assistant principal at Parmenter.
And we were extremely proud of Jonathan Ferrari for his pledge this morning. We told him that he's probably never practiced more for something in his life, and he didn't even know, right? So I'm sure he said the pledge thousands of times. All right, so we're going to get started off with our spotlight presentation. All right, so that's Jonathan, and I'll say that write-up was from his 5th grade teacher, who was beaming the entire time she was writing it about Jonathan. So that's just, here we go. So what we'll actually do is just kind of start off by setting the tone and letting you know that today was day 56 of the school year. We know that because our kindergartners keep track, and so does our secretary. And our teachers, and our students, and our families. Everybody keeps track. So anyway, this is actually a pretty selfish spotlight in that since since my candidacy for principal was announced at Parmenter, there's one word that came up more than any other from friends, colleagues, people in Franklin who were, excited about the opportunity, and that was community. I heard the word community from everyone since I decided to throw my hat in the ring as principal of Parmenter. So I think what I wanted to do tonight, what we wanted to do, was to make this spotlight solely about the community of Parmenter, because that, only 56 days into the school year is something that we want to brag about. And our students and our staff and our families deserve the bragging. And it's not something that we typically are comfortable with, by the way. So I had a little fun with this, and we typed into ChatGPT, what makes a great elementary school community? Now, by the way, it's not because we didn't know already, okay? We talked a lot about that during the interview process, but we got a lot of really great words from that search. We got words like transparency, communication, community events, celebrating DEI, recognition and appreciation, and community service and supports. So we took that and we ran with it for this presentation. So as you know, all research shows that you must feel safe, included, and respected, and seen before you can really get to the learning. So with that being said, we want to talk tonight about the community, and that goes for staff, students, and families at Parmenter.
This slide is our mission statement, our current mission statement, and it stresses the importance of creating a learning environment, a positive, supportive community for students, teachers, and families. You can go to the next slide. The next slide is just a reminder of our core values. You will see evidence of our core values threaded throughout the presentation and within the 56 days of schools that we've had so far. Before we begin the presentation, we want to bring your attention to the school improvement plans. As you know, the SIPs in Franklin are level specific. So elementary schools share a plan, the middle schools, and then the high school. Community is the theme throughout the elementary school improvement plans. And this slide is evidence of, from strategic objectives 1, 4, and 5 of things that we've put in place at Parmenter. However, we hope that this spotlight will foster on many ways in which we can foster social emotional well-being of our students and staff and engage in effective communication to support our community and affirm diversity, equity, and inclusion for all our students.
All right, so we're going to get to those points. So really what this is 56 days of bragging about, and spotlighting the community of Parmenter Elementary School. So first and foremost, transparency and communication. We certainly have an open door policy, and we take phone calls, we send emails and texts weekly. If we feel that staff members need to know something before the next morning, we'll let them know, because again, that emotional safety is extremely important to us. Every once in a while, something happens maybe between students, and it's important that families hear about that from staff before they hear about it from their little kiddo getting off the bus. And so making sure that we are extremely communicative with families and letting them know what it is, whatever they need to know. We send out a morning message each day that talks about what coverages we have and what meetings are happening and who is absent and who is at professional days, because we want our staff to know who's in the building and, not waste anybody's time searching for someone that's not there. Also attending PCC meetings and weekly updates from the PCC meeting. This is an example of the Parmenter Press, which is a weekly newsletter that is sent out. There's a letter from the office. Usually there's flyers from around town. Maybe it's the Halloween event at Franklin Police Department, and the PCC has an opportunity to share out anything that they have going on, and there's a calendar, pictures of kids, and this is a weekly thing that goes out.
community events. Some that we've taken part in so far are our event in the summer, which is Popsicles with Principals. We met kindergarten families on the playground, had popsicles. It allowed the parents and the students to meet us, but it also allowed the parents to get to know their now kindergarten community families together. So that was a great event. We had a fall social that introduced Mr. Chelman to the community. In October, we had our pumpkin stroll, where students decorated pumpkins. We had the book fair. The fire department came, and we got to touch a truck. We had hot dogs and ice cream. Food trucks came that were very good. I heard the hot dogs were delicious. And then our whole school meetings. You'll see in the far left photo, our school psychologist, Mr. Taranchenko, was modeling what happens to your brain when you learn something new. And he was learning how to pogo stick. And so he can now pogo stick 4 times, and will be showing how he will improve his pogo sticking throughout the
Yeah,
year.
and now the town of Franklin knows about it,
Yep.
and we'll keep everybody updated.
Yes. And, he'll have to pogo stick at the school committee.
Yeah,
and
this is not going well. I don't think that, yeah.
And then in an upcoming event is our winter event, where we're having local artists and businesses come to Parmenter at night to showcase their crafts.
Next, we have celebrating diversity and inclusion. For this piece, we have 4th grade lunch bunches that are being hosted by Dr. Harris, our DEI director. We have Start With Hello that we celebrated, which is a promise to all students and staff that no one is ever alone. And you'll see a picture there of Mrs. Lyons' class wearing green, because green is seen, meaning we all have an identity, we all have a voice, and we all have a friend. We all have trusted adults and people that we're surrounded by. We also celebrated Unity Day in collaboration with the PCC and our SEL team. So you see that picture up there of the kiddos and some staff wearing orange that day for anti-bullying. We do Drop Everything and Play. That's an event that happens on Friday mornings, and literally the entire school starts their day off with play. Students are encouraged to bring in board games from home or card games, and the students that they choose to partner up with and to join into groups is actually pretty amazing. We've already done one. We have our next one coming up this Friday. Matter of fact, if anybody, 8:35 on Friday morning, if you want to drop everything and play as well, you're welcome to come join. I have like 3 chess matches that I've been challenged to. I will probably get beaten in all of them, not because I want to, but you see we've got, kiddos who are wearing their football jerseys and kiddos who, like football is not their thing, right? And so getting a chance to actually play and enjoy. We have students that push into our NEC partner program and engage with the students in that program. And a lot of times you'll see adults sitting on the floor with kids playing apples to apples and new board games as well. So it's a chance to, if you've ever played a board game, unless you're one of those people, right? Like Monopoly all night long or Risk for days. Anyone that's ever played a board game with someone, you learn a lot about the people you're playing with, and you make connections, and that's an extremely important thing.
Recognition and appreciations. We have our morning announcements. During the pledge, you will see on the far right, Mr. Chelman and one of our kindergarten students leading the pledge. It was his birthday, so we recognize recognition of birthdays as well as our core values. We do a Caught in the Act, where students will be recognized for exhibiting a core value. Character Ed this year, we have grade 4 and 5 students submit applications to become our Character Ed, almost like a student government, but they will help lead us in different community events. This year it was done anonymously and we eliminated some barriers for students, where we asked students to either videotape themselves submitting with their application, they could write their application, or they could present to a staff member.
An interview.
An interview, yeah. Lucky Ducks, the middle one, is what we did show our appreciation for staff the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, because we believe we are lucky ducks to have the staff that we have and the students that we have. So that was a fun game. We did learn that our staff is
They're very competitive. Yeah.
and likes games. So.
Yeah, so we need to find an outlet for that. Yeah.
And lastly, we have Superintendent Jagir came to read to our first grade class on Veterans Day. And we have mystery readers come in on Fridays throughout the year to read the classes.
And then finally, community service and supports, just kind of bringing some attention to that Character Education Council is currently engaged in a winter gear drive in collaboration with Cradles to Crayons. And so that's just one of the homemade signs. So we'll send that out and collect that from the community, and then Cradles to Crayons will come pick up. Treats for Troops, we collected 292.5 pounds of Halloween candy, and the Lions Club came and picked that up and sent that off to troops that maybe need it a little bit more than I do or we do. Franklin Food Pantry partnership is happening, both promoting and utilizing. So that's something that we're extremely proud of, and what a resource that is. Something definitely that we try to get behind all year. And then holiday supports, just something else that we try to do within the Parmenter community. We have some local businesses that will donate, and staff that will donate, and we can kind of sponsor families for holiday supports and things like that around this time of year. And then FPD, we love Officer Gove and all of FPD, FFD that shows up. But, there we see a student reading some poetry to Ben Franklin in his typical position there. And then, at arrivals and dismissals and, Frankie and Ben and Officer Gove are always there for our drills. And then not only that, but like late night calls about things that we might want to know. And we reach out to Officer Gove if there's things that we want to know. And I can't be sure that he may have also gone to help pick up a teacher whose garage door wouldn't open recently. So, definitely, an amazing collaboration there. And then, pretty much that's what we got out of, that quick little search. And we wanted a chance to reflect on what does that community look like. And so what it looks like within the walls, outside the walls. And there's always room for growth, and we're working very hard with our PCC and with our staff and students to always be getting better and making sure that the community is exactly what we need it to be, so that we can focus on, providing the optimal learning environment. So the Parmenter community is alive and well. When students and staff feel safe and they feel seen and respected, that develops that level of trust, which allows you to move forward with, with the standards and with the learning. And we just wanted a chance to kind of showcase that this evening. So simple, but we hope that we bragged enough for our community. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Always wonderful to hear from all the schools and really kind of see how everyone's doing on that individual basis too. But I'll just open the floor to questions from the committee.
So in looking at the winter clothing drive, if people in the community want to help support that, what can they do to either find more information, or where could they drop things off?
Sure, that's a great one. So that's happening the second week in December. It'll be in our Parmenter Press, and we'll also tweet it out. So if the community wants to follow our Twitter handle, which is Parmenter School, then they'll be able to get information there as well. Appreciate that.
We do have a little contest going on. So we have the mittens, Marvelous Mittens is one team, and Cozy Coats is the other team. Let's see who can get the most donations.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yep. So once again, thank you for the presentation. Love when schools come in, share what they're doing, how they're helping the kids grow, learn. It's amazing to see, because we don't see this on a regular basis, and it's good for the public to see this as well.
Yeah.
The thing I love that you'd said was regarding the inclusion, respect, and being seen. I think that it allows kids to want to come back the next day and want to show their best work, because they know that somebody's out there that cares for them, and it helps build them for a future. So great work and setting up that foundation. appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The one thing that jumped out at me though was the DEEP program. I don't think is this new?
So it's not new. We did survey staff, again, voice, to see like, is this something we want to continue? What about it do we like? What about it do we want to change? And the response came back just like, like keep it the way it is. So we just messaged it out to staff. We messaged it out to students and families so that they know to bring in board games that day. And it happened. So it's actually something that I think it started with our adjustment counselors. Brought it to fruition and made it happen, and it's just something that we've been happy to keep going, and we try to get out into the classrooms during that morning and engage as much as we can.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It happens about once a month.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Yeah, no, sounds amazing. Just a way to kind of shake things up, give children something to be excited about, and just come together, and see things in different aspects. So great. Thank you for the work, and I appreciate everything that you all do.
Thank you.
No questions, but I just want to say thank you very much for coming here and presenting this to us. It's very apparent just how much you value nurturing and fostering a sense of community within your school. And I also think it's incredible that you're showing the students how important it is to also be a part of a broader community, with the Treats for Troops as well as the Food Pantry Partnership, and really teaching Franklin students that it's not only important to focus on their own individual academic achievement, but also that they're a part of a community, and that when there are opportunities to serve and help others, that we should avail ourselves and take advantage of that. So thank you for that. And I'll also say, with your inspiration, we'll definitely be adding pogo sticking to the superintendent evaluation. Thank you for that.
Is 4 proficient? Is that what
Just to be clear, you should get an adult pogo stick. Mr. T did not have an adult pogo stick.
All right,
He didn't
so
get as much air as you
4 will
wanted.
be the baseline.
Fair enough.
Then we'll see where
I
we go
bet you
from
could.
there.
I bet you could beat 4.
So, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'll just kind of echo a lot of what's already said. Thank you. It just sounds like a really great environment. I have a couple children that just left elementary, and to echo what Al said and Dave, the being seen, and I know you guys know that, the smallest things just go so far. Dropping everything and playing, I love that. I know we're like an overscheduled society, and the kids don't have a lot of unstructured time, and having unstructured time with adults overseeing it is like a twofold. It's like
Right.
a win-win. So, great to hear. I was curious about the creative council. Is that what you called it? Like the
Character ed.
Character ed.
Character
That's right.
education.
I'm just making up terms. How many get to do that?
We do limit it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
6th, 4th grade, and 6th, 5th grade.
And then it just seems like something that's so awesome. Do you guys have a huge turnout of people trying to get on?
We do. It's usually pretty much all the kids in the grade.
Yeah, we
They
had
all wanna do it.
we had
Yeah,
63 kids apply.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, we tried to UDL it as much as we could this year, so we had interviews happening.
Yeah.
And it was really, the application was around our core values, and examples of them practicing those core values, and what they mean to the students. And so we had, interviews, posters,
And
and it was great.
showing those core values outside of school, because sometimes they can see it just in the school, but how do they carry that over into the community and into
Right.
outside?
Yeah, that's
great. So,
awesome.
yeah.
Right.
I'm just,
So,
my wheels are spinning like,
yeah.
could we have 12 new ones the second half of the year or something? Just like the more the kids that get to experience
We actually,
that.
this year, we did select, we are using the students that did not make the committee in other ways. So
Good, yeah. You guys
we'll
have.
select that kids that did apply can
Mhm.
now show leadership in another way.
Yeah, they came down and helped with the Treats for Troops. They helped out at our first school meeting. So that's very much there, right? Like we don't want anyone to feel disconcerted, because of it. But it also, what it does do is it holds those positions in very high regard, and that they're not something to be taken, for granted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we need more of that too.
yeah. So terms maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe terms.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I just, community's a great word for an elementary school. You guys obviously are doing an amazing job fostering that and building it. It's a good reflection of Parmenter and the school.
Thank you.
Great to hear. Yeah.
I guess I would just finish with letting everyone know, if it's okay, that tomorrow is Amy Harvey's birthday.
Happy birthday.
Well, happy birthday.
Happy
Sam,
birthday.
102.
Yes. There you go.
No, thank you all. It's always wonderful to kind of hear directly from the schools and kind of, get that showcase. But I think also to have those bright spots. Everybody kind of has those, we all saw some amazing work that you guys are doing in the classrooms. And, if some of those can kind of be replicated across other schools as well, it's only just kind of continue to grow our district, to be better and better. So thank you all so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you both. And did anyone else notice, are those custom avatars? Because those looked exactly like you, both of you.
Yeah.
Did you have to
Those are-
customize those in order that?
Those are custom avatars.
Yes. Good work. Okay. All right, great, thank you. So up next, Ms. Edson and Ms. LaPlante will come up. There's a presentation, basically a proposal before you. Typically, when we have any type of request for an overnight trip, we submit the forms. It's it's in your packet to just provide the necessary information we need. Tonight, we're joined, as I said, by Ms. Edson, who is the head of our Franklin High School National Art Honor Society. So they're here to answer any questions regarding the trip. Just to set the stage, Mass MoCA is the Massachusetts Museum of Contemporary Art, and there's a Clark Museum. It's approximately 100 miles away, give or take.
Yeah.
And there's a request for you to stay overnight because it's a 100-mile trip to head out that way. And they want to maximize not only the Mass MoCA, but there's the Clark Museum also, which is in North Adams, Massachusetts. So with that said, I would kick it over to you all to share any information that you would like to share, and then we'll open it up to questions.
Okay, perfect. Okay, first of all, thank you very much for letting us have this opportunity to share this trip with you. We're pretty excited about it. It's something that I've been wanting to do with the kids for quite a long time now. So it's one night, 2 museums. Pretty exciting. All right, so our major goal for this is to open up the students' horizons and have them visit art museums. A lot of our students have not been to museums, and this is a great way for them to experience 2 very different kinds of museums on one trip. Right, so these are the National Art Honor Society students are the students, kind of our highest achieving art students at the high school. So it's something that's very enriching to them. It's just a good experience for everyone to be able to go to a museum and to experience this, even if they're not going to pursue arts as a career, just to be well-rounded people and understand the world. All right.
Many of our kids do go into art and
Yes,
design and
yes, they do.
architecture who are in this program.
Right. So I gave you a map. That Mass MoCA is in North Adams and the Clark is in Williamstown, so that's where we're going. Just give you an idea, so some context. Not everybody knows where they are, so I thought I would help you out with that. All right, so the Mass MoCA, like was mentioned, it's the largest contemporary art museum in North America. It's super, super fun. It is a repurposed 16-acre manufacturing complex. I don't know if anyone's ever been there. I recommend everybody go. It's just really fun. It's very engaging. That's pictures of it. The Sol-LeWitt, actually they have, so it's this collection of different buildings, and one of the buildings is Sol-LeWitt is an artist, and people came in and they recreated his artwork on the walls. It's in just one of the buildings. So there's a lot of places to explore in the museum. So you go around. I've been there many times, obviously. I've been there many times. I love it. It's my favorite museum. So you just can pop out around the corner, and all of a sudden there's this amazing piece of artwork. There are interactive displays. There's all sorts of interesting things there. This is just an example of, because it's such a large space, there are all these large, really dynamic artworks that you can be right in front of, and you walk through them. There are a lot of outbuildings. There is art that's outside, inside, so it's very contemporary. And to juxtapose that with a visit to the Clark Museum, I think is really interesting. It's a very traditional museum. It has a nice addition by Tadeo Ando on it, and it's it's a very traditional museum, so that's the picture of the reflecting pool. So it's a traditional museum. You go in, you look at you go, what you think of as a museum, and you're looking at your stuff on the walls. So that's some of the artwork that's there. So it's a 2-day trip. We would be leaving on Friday and motor coaching over there. It's about, it's about a 3-hour trip, give or take. So start off on Friday visiting the Clark Museum, and then the next day going over and visiting the Mass MoCA, and then coming back. And this trip would be, it's actually a tour through World Strides. So they take care of all of like the online payment, the refunds, all that. They have doctors, it's all insurance and all that kind of stuff. So it's all taken care of by them. I believe Diane Plouffe is really helped me out with this, getting this particular company. So I believe she has worked with them before. So that's pretty much the trip. So I have the proposal there too, yeah. So that's it.
Thank you very much. And so we'll open the floor if there's any questions from the committee.
Yeah, it sounds like a great trip. How many students are you expecting to be able to bring?
Well, 40 students. Yeah.
Great.
Right, currently, we have 50
Yeah.
students in the society.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Are there going to be any particularly unique exhibitions at either of these locations that are going to be of particular interest to
It
students?
is they constantly are changing them. I'm not sure what there's, in the Mass MoCA, there's one huge, massive warehouse space. That's a continually changing one. Right now, they have, I can't remember the artist, but they have an interactive roller coaster kind of a space, and if you would go to the museum, you can sign up ahead of time to be on this kind of this thing. So I think that might still be there.
Excuse me. Should have some water. No questions, but just this looks like a great trip. Mass MoCA, went to the website. Probably will be going there this summer with the boys just to give some
It's great. It's
exposure.
worth
Just
it.
a large,
It's so great that it's in our state. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, and the pricing of
Summer's
it.
amazing, they have concerts and
Yes,
all
they
kinds
do.
of outdoor
It's neat.
activities there, it's a really
Yeah,
great place to
yeah,
visit.
they'll probably love that as well, and just the size of it. So,
It's
yeah,
fun.
Yeah, so no, good luck. Sounds great. So thank you for coming here.
Thank you very much for this presentation. I was actually just at the Mass MoCA 3 weeks ago, so I'm very excited that you're going to be taking a group out there. It's certainly very enriching. I hadn't had much exposure to contemporary art before, but just seeing its different perspectives and getting an understanding of what the artist was thinking, and I can absolutely agree that the Solo Wit exhibit was one of the highlights for me. So very excited that you'll be giving Franklin students a chance to see and take all this in. Thank you.
Yeah, kudos to creating a field trip for arts and culture too, It's good to see those kids get to experience an overnight like that and 2 museums. And the price is $47 per student, so that feels,
No, it's $385.
oh, I didn't read that right, okay.
We're doing some fundraising to get that down, but yeah.
Oh, is that, okay.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
gonna say,
No, we're
Miss
doing
Plouffe
some.
must have some sort of like.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, well, great job fundraising.
And that is a higher price, but compared to other, like, field trips like Music Takes, and we talked to Diane about this, it's very.
Yeah, she's very experienced with
good
this. She
deal.
thought it was a reasonable price, yeah.
I still do, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
And I know we have committee member Sampali. If you have any questions or comments.
All good. It seems like a very exciting trip. Definitely, it's very knowledgeable for all the students coming in. Thank you for coming, you guys. Thank you.
And I want to thank you once again, and especially you talk about how it would be accessible to students, low-income families.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've mentioned this plenty of times. I'll continue to kind of mention it, that even though the state is now kind of providing the free meals, that there's still many opportunities for families and neighbors as well, just to kind of get the word out that taking that application for the free and reduced lunch, it opens up so many more doors, including for field trips like this, to also be more accessible. Superintendent, I believe that application is right on our website.
It's on our website, yep, under the, I believe it's under the school business. Yep, yep, so you can find it right on our website.
Terrific.
It's an online application.
And it's a rolling application as well, right? It's not a.
Correct.
Perfect. So, for family members, even if you don't necessarily, obviously, like the state is continuing to pay for the meals. But if your family, or your neighbors are in need of that, it opens up so many more doors. As my colleague mentioned, this is a great, price point as already for the trip, even at the $385 level. But obviously, it's so much more accessible if you're on the free and reduced meal. So please take a look at that application. But thank you very much for this presentation and for answering all of our questions. Greatly appreciate that.
So, just through the chair, the process will be, you're good for now. We will take a vote later on in the meeting for approval, and I can follow up with you directly to let you know. Just based on the comments and feedback, I think we're moving in the right direction. So,
Perfect.
yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Okay, all
Both.
right. Thank you.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Okay. So next up, we have Mr. Stark and Dr. Frazier, both joining us tonight from the Office of Teaching and Learning. We also have Dr. Rogers, who is online and will be tuning in virtually to share some information. Annually, we share a district assessment presentation just about this time of the year. I'm really excited, I'm thinking about in my second year, we have a team that includes Tina, Eric, and Tim. They formed a really solid Office of Teaching and Learning. I think all bringing different strengths to the table and different perspectives that I think have really enhanced that particular sector of our organization, and we're fortunate to have them in the role. So tonight they're going to be sharing some information, and I'm going to kick it over to you all now, as so I do not steal any thunder. Okay? Sure.
Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Gotcha.
Yes.
Great. All right. I don't see if the presentation is up, but I just I'll kick off just saying hello to everyone and thank you for having me, even joining virtually. Happy to be here. And before we kind of kick off our presentation, I would like to just turn it over to Tim and Eric so they can introduce themselves to you all.
Sure. Thank you. I'm Eric Stark. I'm the Director of Curriculum for STEM.
I'm Tim Frazier. I'm the Director of Curriculum for Humanities.
All right. Great. Well, we're excited to be here tonight. And what I'll start by saying is that our goal is to provide you all with an overview of various academic achievement data that we review, analyze, and utilize, with the majority of our presentation focusing in on MCAS. So we'll share some notes that we've made on some trends and patterns that we've identified through analyzing MCAS data. And so as we do this ourselves throughout the course of our days and months throughout a school year, we really keep students, of course, at the forefront of our conversations and of our data analysis, and specifically really kind of center our conversations oftentimes around portrait of graduate skills, which is what you see right in front of you this evening. And so what I would invite you to do is, as you listen to the presentation tonight and hear about some of the MCAS data trends and analysis, that you kind of think through the lens of these skills that we really do work to ensure that students embody and grow throughout their duration in the Franklin Public Schools. So those are listed there for you. So we can progress to the next slide. So as I mentioned, this evening we'll focus the majority of the presentation on MCAS analysis, but that's only one academic data point that we consistently analyze throughout the course of any given school year, any given day often, or month. And so we really do categorize academic assessments into two ways: formative and summative. So here you can see on this slide, we've outlined what a formative assessment's purpose and frequency is. So when we talk formative assessment in our educational lingo, we're talking about being able to analyze data and information to make actionable changes, and to provide feedback to students, to inform instruction, to inform practice. And this occurs multiple times throughout a student's learning journey, throughout any given day, any given unit of study. And so then here we've listed some examples for you. So you can talk about universal screeners, exit tickets, quizzes, progress monitoring. This could be simple observations of students' academic progress in a classroom, classwork, homework. We've probably all experienced quizzes in our time in school. So those are what we talk about when we say formative assessments. And then we also use summative assessments. And the purpose of this data set is really to evaluate student mastery at the end of a learning journey and identify patterns and trends in that data. So specifically tonight, we'll be talking about MCAS, but that's also as we think about AP exams, end of unit tests, finals. We use MAP assessment data, which is like a point in time, but a summative assessment of a student's journey throughout the course of time. So different data points. This is just outlining for you that MCAS is just one moment in time of one data point that's used in a larger scale. So if we can move to the next slide, this image here, or this visual, is trying to depict a student's journey throughout the course of Franklin Public Schools. So you can see that road there. We labeled UDL Tier 1 instruction, or Tier 1. And what our goal is that every student has access to high quality, standards aligned, research-based, universally designed curriculum, and that teachers are able to universally design instructional practices and ensure that every student throughout their journey in Franklin Public Schools has access to that Tier 1 or that core instruction. And so as you can see, these little kind of pinpoints are just mimicking different points in time where maybe formative or summative assessments are given to students. And throughout that journey, as a student progresses kind of through that roadway, there are oftentimes data points that might suggest, and we're just thinking about academics this evening, but that may suggest that what is happening in that Tier 1 instructional curriculum and practices isn't maybe meeting the student's needs. And so you can see kind of these like cul-de-sacs of sorts. One where is labeled Tier 2, where there might be a moment where a student or group of students might need some additional support related to whatever the data is kind of telling us in a certain area. But you'll notice that that cul-de-sac comes right back around to that main road of that UDL, that universally designed Tier 1 instruction. And then as you progress through that roadmap, you can see kind of later on in there that there's also another smaller cul-de-sac kind of that shoots off there. That's connected both to the Tier 2 and Tier 3. The Tier 1 road and the Tier 2 cul-de-sac there, because there are some times where students might need a little bit more support. And so throughout this journey, we're using multiple data points, academic data points, to indicate the needs of students, but then they'll always come back on this UDL Tier 1 pathway. And then there's our little image there depicting our graduate moving towards our POG skills. So this is just kind of a roadway to show you and to depict what we use data to kind of inform student instruction for. And so with that, I'm going to transition to Tim and Eric.
Hi. So we wanted to start by talking, as we did last year and ending our presentation, about some general trends that Franklin has seen when it comes to MCAS and when comparative to the state. What we've seen for the past 5 years is a trend where Franklin students are continuing to outperform in math, ELA, and in the science MCAS when it comes to the percentage of students who are receiving not the label, but the achievement of meeting or exceeding expectations. So that trend has been steady for the last 5 years of MCAS data. But we feel as though it's also important for us, in addition to that achievement data, to take a look at other information that we can gain from MCAS. So I'm going to transition to Eric, who will sort of set the stage of this here.
Yeah, thanks, Tim and Tina. So just to orient the committee and the community, as Tina said, MCAS assessments are single data points, but we use them to tell the stories of curriculum assessment and instruction here in Franklin. And we also use these data points to demonstrate the impact of the investments that the district and the committee and the community have made too. So to, again, orient the committee and the community, We will present achievement data based by level, for example, as you see here, and we'll do that for elementary, middle, and high school. But then we'll speak to kind of those stories, as I said, with domain-specific information within each of the content areas, again, by level. Just before we proceed any further, I want to just take a moment to acknowledge that our educators and our curriculum leaders and our administrators who support and contribute to the work of developing curriculum and designing instruction every single day and making decisions for our students are at the forefront of this work, and just want to take a moment to express our appreciation for all of them. So as I said, we will speak to domain-specific data. So domains or topics are listed down the left-hand side of the slide here. So students in grades 3, 4, and 5 take the math MCAS. And again, on this slide, you see the percentage of possible points for grades 3, 4, and 5 over the course of 2 years. So with that kind of as your point of reference, I'll advance to the same slide, but have some visuals for you. So first, for elementary math, I want to draw your attention to 3 data points. If you start with the first white circle, where it says 55 and then goes over to 81, geometry is a domain where our students continue to experience success. In 2022, our 3rd graders received 55% of the possible points in this domain. But then that same cohort of students in 2023 received 81% of the possible points. As you think about those red circles and arrows, you can follow the grade 4 students in 2022 received 52% of the possible points, and then as 5th graders the next year, 70%. So these numbers, again, as Tim said, are significantly above the state average. And I think are a celebration. So what can we attribute this success to? In the fall of 2001, we implemented a core program, Illustrative Math. So prior to that, our students might not have had research-based, high-quality curriculum. Then as we think about prior to 2022 as well, as we're implementing the illustrative math at the elementary level, pacing was challenging, and many of our classes and grades didn't get to, say, a geometry unit that comes at the end of the school year. So a couple of things that we can kind of attribute those 22 scores to are the lack of a core program prior that was meeting our students' needs and kind of some pacing challenges. However, as we fast forward to the 23 school year, as you can see, students had the prior grades geometry unit. They had, in some cases, all of or part of the current year's geometry units. And something else that was unique to the 23 spring MCAS data is that we had been using a digital supplemental tool called STMath to support our math programming at the elementary level. Next, I'll draw your attention down to fractions in those white square boxes around the 71. So in 4th grade, students spend the large part of their year living in these fractions units, and illustrative math is really strong in this area. It's one of the reasons why we chose this program. So our 3rd and 4th graders receiving 71% of the possible points in 2023 is a celebration and is a recognition of kind of the investment we've made with illustrative math. And then I would note that those 71% of the possible points, both for our 3rd graders and our 4th graders, that's a high percentage, but it's also 13 percentage points above the state average, which is even more of a celebration. And then finally, I drew a box around the operations and algebraic thinking domain for our 5th graders in 2023. This is a point where our students received fewer possible points, but I'm proud of the work, again, that our teachers and our curriculum leaders have done. They identified that in OA, operations and algebraic thinking, illustrative math wasn't fully meeting our students' needs in 5th grade, so they worked to develop a supplemental unit, which is taught in addition to the illustrative math unit, and that's happening this year for the first time. So those are kind of some celebrations. as we think about math at the elementary level, and also a nod to the work that our math specialists are doing. I will continue with grade 5 science. So our 5th graders participate in the science, technology, and engineering MCAS. The domains or the topics that are assessed are listed there, as well as the percentage of possible points. These percentages are roughly about 7 percentage points above the state average, and it's worth noting that the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education is developing a new science MCAS, and we anticipate that this new assessment will require our students to dive deeper into more application and performance tasks, and so we'll speak a little bit to this when we get to middle school.
On the ELA side, I'd like to draw our attention and highlight the data that's circled. In our last 2 school years, there was a recommitment to the foundational principles around reading, largely due to the efforts of our teachers and our reading specialists at each of our campuses. And through their hard work, really they've been working to increase foundational reading, the focus on foundational reading as a Tier 1 instructional approach, specifically around phonics, phonological awareness, and an increase in the incorporation of these strategies of encoding and decoding within the classroom at the K through 3 level. And we've begun to see the influence of that in our MCAS data. As you can see, language and reading has shown an increase over our last 2 years, despite the challenges of the previous couple years with non-traditional schooling, we'll say. The dedication has really been expanded with our investment in a core program for literacy. Our new core program is at its foundation really structured in a way that continues foundational literacy strategies through 5th grade. So one of the wonderful aspects of this core program is that we'll continue to see students having extra opportunities to really work on developing their decoding of the English language, their reading and their writing throughout their educational experience as elementary students. At the elementary level, an opportunity for us, though, and a clear trend actually at all of our levels when we look at ELA, is our focus on writing. And at the elementary level, we're now working to increase our focus on idea development in writing, supporting ideas with examples from text and from sources, and the appropriate conventions of the English language. Of course, the core program has that aspect, and our teachers are focused on working through that.
So we'll continue into the middle level. Students in grades 6 through 8 participate in the ELA and math MCAS, and then students in grade 8, the science, technology, and engineering. This is the middle level achievement data. For middle school math, I want to draw your attention to a couple of different areas. First, again, in the geometry domain, you'll see that circle around 35 represents our grade 7 students in 2022, received 35% of the possible points, and then in 2023, those same students received 58% of the possible points. This is one example of the impact the pandemic had on math instruction. So during the pandemic, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education identified priority standards, and geometry was not one of those priority standards. So in some of those 22 scores, we see the noticeable impact of the lack of instruction in that area. The same is true for statistics and probability, that 44% of the possible points for our 7th graders in 22. But again, we see that increase up to 70%, which was a significant increase in 2023. So again, although we saw that increase from 44 to 70% through my conversations with our math curriculum leaders at the middle level, I think this points to a little bit of variability within the assessment. And what I mean by that is we see our students' proficiency with statistics and probability standards most notable in grade 8. because those standards are taught either early on in the 7th grade year or later in the 7th grade year. So through our conversations, we've really just been talking about that juggling of where do we position our units to try to make sure that our students are most prepared for these assessments, recognizing that there's anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks of school, which represents maybe 1 to 2 units at the middle level afterwards.
For the ELA side, I'd like to draw our attention to the continued increase in student success with language as is seen in both cohorts from 60 to 65 and from 60 to 65 and 60 to 66. This has been a focus of our middle schools, and our teachers have invested time in utilizing and leveraging a digital tool called No Red Ink in order to help, again, reinforce grammar and the conventions of the English language, and that's seen an impact. An opportunity we'd like to see is addressing sort of the plateauing of our scores as they relate to writing. There's an opportunity for us to continue to focus on improving student performance. Our teachers are currently taking advantage of our professional learning time to focus on, at the middle level, increasing the frequency of writing, opportunities to write in different genres, which at the middle level is a hugely challenging aspect of MCAS. And that there's different genres that they're writing within, and also to give them an opportunity to continue improving through increasing that frequency with more consistent feedback. However, we are still seeing that writing is outperforming the state. We feel we can continue to push for student improvement.
And then finally, at the middle level, we can speak to science. And the percentage of possible points are listed there. Again, these are anywhere from 2 to 10 percentage points above the state average. But earlier I talked about how the state will be transitioning to a new MCAS in the coming years that will require students to engage in performance tasks more. So these tasks are going to require students to think about a storyline and students making sense of real life science phenomena and interacting through simulation with different experiments and making observations and going through kind of the scientific and engineering processes. But what I'm excited to say is the investment that we've made in Open SciEd that's in our district improvement plan is going to position us and our 8th graders in the future well for this test, because I think that the test will be closely aligned with the Open SciEd curriculum that we're implementing, and that our science teachers are working really hard to do so at the middle level.
As it relates to ELA at the high school level, sorry, I skipped you.
No, you're fine. Go ahead. We'll go back.
I'm too excited. All right, so one wonderful piece of information is actually when we break down the domains and actually look at the questions on the assessment, Franklin High School students outperformed the state on every single question on the high school MCAS. They received more points. The percentage of students did. So we are seeing, in fact, that our students are finding success as it relates to this assessment. But of course, we are continuing to finalize our realignment of written and codified guaranteed curriculum at the high school level. And one opportunity we have is as they're writing these units, they are looking at pieces of data from MCAS, and they're looking at their classroom assessments, and they are working hard to develop units where students have opportunities to, again, continue to press their achievement levels in writing, and also to have a more meaningful experience overall at the high school level. Sorry, I jumped
That's
over.
great. And as we think about math in grade 10, these are some, not all of the domains that are assessed, but I chose these 5 because the first 3 represent the highest possible points that we received. Creating equations is the domain where our students received the highest percentage of possible points, as you can see. Their percentage was 7% percentage points higher than the state average, but that's an increase from 2022, which is great. As we think about quantities and reasoning with equations and inequalities as the next two domains, in 2022, there was 69% of the possible points. In 23, it increased to 72, and then 68 to 75 for the second domain. And I think about the work that's happening at Franklin High School, a multi-year effort to develop a guaranteed and viable curriculum as we think about our students that are taking Algebra 1 and 2 and geometry. The guaranteed and viable curriculum that the teachers and the department heads have been writing is in place in these classes, so we're seeing a positive impact on that, which is great. And then as we think about interpreting categorical and quantitative data and the real number system as the last two domains, again, that's where we see the variability from year to year, not knowing how many questions related to a specific standard are going to be given, the number of points that could be received. So I think that those just, again, kind of connect to that idea we talked about at the middle level with there's some variability and only so much we can anticipate with the test, but we juggle a lot and try to position kids the best we can.
So to wrap up our presentation here, we want to draw our attention again to the idea that MCAS is a single data point, but an important data point. As we look at students taking this assessment, we need to remember, obviously, that this is an assessment at the conclusion of a year, which incorporates standards that are taught within that school year and sometimes taught in the prior school year. And considering that, I think our students have demonstrated year and year again that they are receiving, a high-quality education, but many of our investments are starting to really impact student performance, and we continue to appreciate your support in hearing us each year report on the most exciting thing, which is data. So, thank you.
All right. Thank you all so much. And with that, I'll open the floor. If any committee members have any questions, comments?
I wasn't ready to go first, but
If somebody,
I'll go. Yeah, I love seeing how you follow one cohort 1 year into the next, and also, kind of reflecting readiness to have, the 10th grade year, just thinking of that one since we were just there, and the 10th graders that next year too. What I wrote down here was writing scores for the middle school level, that, you mentioned was an area where you kind of pulled aside and revamped a little bit to see how you could bring kids up. Is that kind of going back to that roadmap that we showed at the beginning, the little cul-de-sacs per se, and would a whole grade level kind of go off on a different track to assess? Do you ever bring in smaller groups or a classroom? Just kind of wondering how that works.
That's a wonderful question, and I believe that is an indication that we need more cul-de-sacs, if you will. So when we look at our Tier 1 instruction and we realize when we look at MCAS or we look at other summative assessments that there's an opportunity for students to find more success, because they're still achieving, but find more success.
Absolutely.
We work to increase opportunities in their lessons and then in their curriculum for them to really use the skill and then receive feedback on the skill and then be assessed on the skill. And so those are those cul-de-sacs that we see. So MCAS provides us as insight into where, as teachers, as curriculum leaders, we could give more opportunity to students to really practice and then achieve. So those cul-de-sacs are created as a result of MCAS.
Right, absolutely, awesome.
Absolutely.
And if I can just add on to your comment, I think the opportunity that we've listed here is we need to sustain. We not only need to grow, but we need to sustain what we have in terms of tiered structure. So making sure that we have the resources to be able to continue to provide those off-ramps to get that just-in-time learning to be able to, again, re-engage with the Tier 1 curriculum. So.
Awesome. Thanks for the presentation.
So y'all talked about the application performance in the science section, basically, a new approach, and had alluded somewhat to things that we were doing to kind of prepare for that. Could you go into a little bit more detail as to what we're doing to get the students ready in that area?
Yeah, so I think at the heart of it, the Science MCAS has been a multiple choice constructed response type of question like that. The new assessment, and I'll be joining leaders from around the state on Thursday and Friday to learn more about it. But the new assessment will just require students to think a little bit more deeper in terms of like phenomenon-based ideas, and then also to have some sort of technical application, and I don't know yet what that technical application will look like. However, that instructional model is what Open SciEd is based off of at the middle school level. So that was my comment of, I think that students are experiencing the Open SciEd curriculum, which is phenomenon-based, it's application, and all of those things. So I think that we're well positioned at that level for our students to be prepared for that assessment.
Thank you.
Sure.
I love when you guys come here. This is great. This is I just absorb this and it's just amazing. So just want to call out, and you had said this as well, some of the improvements that we have seen in the math space is because of our investment in illustrative math in 2021, and we're seeing it now. And I want people to think of, when we talk about budget and money and what we need, we're asking for things, or you are all asking for things because you are the experts at this, that will help us down the road. And we may not see this day one, and we may have to do modifications, as you had said. We may have to do supplementary courses to fill any gaps that you identify. But at the end of the day, it's because it's going to help our students. And this is a really great depiction. If you guys could go back to the grade 3-5 math domains, I loved how you just showed, the previous grade with the arrow to where they performed the year after, and you can see what we're getting out of this. And I don't think this is what you can tell in the moment. You have to kind of assess it, analyze it, and if we didn't have folks like you all doing this work, we may not be able to measure this. Is that safe to say? Sure. Leading the witness, okay. But no, I think this is a great testament to what is our money getting us. So thank you for doing this and showing this, and I hope this is something that we can share with the town when we talk about budget and see, hey, we're asking for this because of these are the things that we'll get back from it. You'd mentioned around the plateau in writing scores, and what I'm gathering is with like the changes in the science curriculum or the testing, we'll need to improve our ELA to kind of help the students perform better there. Is that a correct assessment?
Sure, it's great. Yeah, so actually on all of these assessments, the stronger the students do when it comes to their ELA achievement, the stronger they'll do on all of these assessments. There's aspects of language in every assessment that they're taking when we talk MCAS. In terms of writing, we are seeing that the percentage of possible points Franklin achieves compared to the state has been consistently higher. And even saying that, we're finding that that number isn't increasing. Now that's statewide, so that could be attributed to the test and the design and what questions and what tasks are being asked of students. There's also the element that behind each of these numbers is a child. And we want the kids to be able to do the best they can at all points. So we're constantly looking at how do we improve their readiness to write and to critically think through these writing tasks. But at the same time, we look at this data with a lens that we need to dig deeper. So to answer your question, that stagnation of achievement means that that's our first step to dig deeper. But we do anticipate an investment in writing, an investment in looking at the curriculum, time for teachers to get together to really dig into their, the kids in front of them and what the kids in front of them need. That's going to require some hard work, and we're excited to do that work.
No, great, thank you. This is just all great, and I feel like the more that we invest in our students at the younger ages, the easier it is for them as they get older. And I'm assuming all the claims that we get from a town for sports and cheerleading and other things, I want us to be in that space for academics as well, and I think we're planting the seeds, and just like planting, you just can't water it one day and you're gonna get your, you bear your fruit the next day, right? You gotta wait the time and you finally see it. So this is just showing that the work that you're putting in is helping our students, our teachers, our town, and our reputation. So thank you for this, appreciate this, and looking forward to next time.
Thank you both very much for all the hard work you put into this and putting these metrics together. And it's extremely encouraging to see not only our performance relative to the rest of the state, but also the trends that you were just very, very well highlighting here. And I'd like to echo the sentiments of my colleague, Mr. Charles. It's very encouraging as well to see how our investments in our curriculum and the programs that we're offering really are bearing fruit. And that's borne out in the data. I did have a couple questions for you guys. So, from the performance metrics and the year-over-year trends, again, very encouraging, and we're very happy to see it. Either from those or from other indicators, do we have any sense of how pandemic learning impacted either the performance metrics or the trends we're seeing, and do we have any sense of maybe possible lingering effects of pandemic learning on them?
Yeah, so I think on the math side, it's a little bit easier to see that. It's a little bit easier to see that with where the state set priority standards, as I talked about earlier. So the state during the pandemic was asking us to focus on these domains or these topics with less instructional time. And I think that where we see lower scores, we can draw a connection to less instruction in those areas. But I think the encouraging part is seeing that growth, with all of the things we've put into place, that growth is right back up there, just with this example of geometry, as a result of a core program, as a result of a digital supplemental tool, as a result of our curriculum leaders making instructional decisions on a daily basis and making adjustments. So I think this is just one example of the impact and kind of our recovery, if you will.
Excellent, thank you. And as was mentioned, so these trends are a great testament to the impact of illustrative math, and we hope that we continue to see those year after year. And so now that we're really exploring this new literacy program and curricula kind of across the board, of course we're hoping for similar trends, but what can we maybe expect, and what's the timeline for what we're expecting as we implement that?
Yeah, sure, we're confident in positive trends when it comes to the new core program, especially considering the hard work of teachers and the literacy specialists in really leading this effort of adopting a program. What we would anticipate usually is there's a 2 to 3 year opportunity with the adoption of a new curriculum before you see noticeable changes or gains in data, and part of that has to do with the scope and sequence of when concepts are introduced to students, the language of concepts, routines. It does take some time for that to pan out. As we relate to the core program, one of the benefits we see is it does have a spiral curriculum, which means that students are introduced to these different domains and the different concepts within them, and then they're reintroduced with more complexity throughout the same academic year and throughout their K through 5 journey. And so what we should see is growth across the board. Another aspect that's a positive of a core program for Franklin is that with our 5 elementary schools, we have a guarantee that all students have access to high quality instructional material and that their teachers are receiving professional learning that is all aligned. So we should see students across the board benefit from access, really, and access to teachers who are teaching towards a consistent scope, K to 5, whether they're in Parmenter or they're in Oak. They're going to, we should see that performance pan out in a consistent manner. And when we look at how the metrics do get calculated, it would obviously benefit all students.
Excellent, thank you. And yeah, I mean, that's great to know that we have some kind of expectation in terms of what the timeline sort of looks like, and then we, of course, look forward to seeing that borne out when it does occur. And then one last question that I have. So, I mean, again, overall, it seems like everything is, I mean, very, not only trending in the positive direction, but has remained in a positive state relative to where the rest of the, or on average where the Commonwealth is. But of these, are there any metrics or trends that either teachers or admin are particularly concerned about, or think that there's something we need to prioritize more? Of course, you know, we have the new curriculum that's being implemented, but is there anything that stuck out to you that we think we, you know, should be brought to our attention or need to be reassessed later on?
So to me, in looking at the ELA data and looking at the different data sources we use when we are supporting students, it's the importance of what we do with that information. And so to me, the important piece of data is choosing quality progress monitoring. So for us on the ELA side, when it comes to early literacy, we're looking at things like DIBELS assessments, and then we're looking at progress monitoring from that. But that takes the resource of people. And to me, the most important thing is in continuing to invest in our teachers and our specialists so that they are able to look at this data and do something actionable with it to support students. And so though the trends are very, very much consistent in ELA, when we break it down to a smaller scale, it's important that we are not losing focus on the student behind the number. So to me, that's the trend I want to focus on.
I think I also want to highlight that, as I shared earlier, we have a critical need to sustain and grow our tiered structures, but that's not just for the students maybe who may not be meeting expectations. It's for those students who are meeting or exceeding, and those cul-de-sacs, if you will, present opportunities for students to have an enrichment as well. So as you're living, say, in that fractions unit in grade 4, what opportunities do we have to enrich our students' experiences? So I think that something that you might hear is how critical it is to maintain the resources that we have so that we can continue to reach all students. And as we talk about in this presentation, it's not just those that are meeting or not meeting, it's the exceeding too.
Thank you very much.
I, unlike Al, don't love data, so thank you for being the people to put this together. It's good to know people are on top of this. I mean, the things that you pointed out, it's, you know, like I know you talked about operations and algebra, you talked about the science curriculum. Those are things that you already saw, you've already pivoted. Thank you. It's one less thing to be overly concerned about. I remember when the school committee voted in 2021 for the math curriculum, and there was like some jaw-dropping of like, oh, this is really expensive. But aside from our educators, investing in our educators, curriculum's probably next in line. You know, we gotta be staying on top of things. You sort of answered my question already, because I was gonna ask just about things, and I know like the district's been gathering information for the superintendent and business administrator to kind of get, you know, what is the budget that we need to be able to successfully run the school. And I just want to encourage you guys to be bold. You know, you have so much experience and knowledge of what other districts are doing and what's possible, that I really think that Franklin's brand should be education. You know, birthplace of Horace Mann, home to the first library, we have a college in town. I think it's really where the whole town's going to benefit. So thank you for what you're doing, and I don't really have much other than that. So thanks.
And then also online, DP, if you have any questions, comments?
Thank you for the comprehensive presentation, provide a clear view of the district assessments. The one and only question I have is, if any student not able to meet the expectations, what is the backup plan to encourage the respective student?
Good question. So I think as we shared, MCAS is one data point. So I think that our curriculum leaders play such a critical role in helping to triangulate the data to be able to understand, does the MCAS data point align with other data points, or maybe does it not align? So I think that our curriculum leaders do a really good job of analyzing that data and comparing it to other data points, as Dr. Rogers shared, and then think about that roadmap. So what opportunities do students have for just-in-time learning to be able to get a boost before they progress into a topic or something like that? So.
Yeah, okay. I appreciate that. It's a very good presentation of the full analysis. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to mention one more thing. I often hear from other committees, particularly Finance Committee, the chair will say, why does the school need more money? Our MCAS scores are great. They're fantastic. And then I go to an election and I'm asked to sign to, a waiver of MCAS in the state that people are trying to push. So any sort of information that you can, just know that the community is looking for, not necessarily where we're not meeting expectations or exceeding, but we're looking for how to convey to sort of that, 1990s school of thought where it's more than just an MCAS score to thrive. So I love that our MCAS scores are going up. I've got kids in the district and it's important, but I think to convince the larger population of Franklin of how necessary it is to maintain resources, it's good to know like what other metrics maybe we deem even more important here in the district, or things that we care about. So I'm sure you all run that through the superintendent, but it's kind of my short story. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Just a few things. One, actually, wanted to mention just for everybody that I know sometimes there's a lot of jargon. Talk about like UDL and Tier 1, Tier 2s. We do have on our Franklin website that EduSpeak,
Yes.
a whole glossary of all of the terms and terminology. As you'll start to become even more and more accustomed to it, but it's out there. So when you hear stuff about UDL, to kind of instantly know exactly what that means. Thank you though very much. Really loved kind of seeing a couple of things. One, when we talked about like the math curriculum and identifying, having that like introspective look to kind of identify where it wasn't, kind of hitting all of those check boxes, at least when it comes to MCAS, and looking at it as an iterative process to say, all right, we got this great curriculum that we did pay a lot of money for. However, when we kind of take a look at it in terms of the lens of MCAS, here's where it's lacking. So here's where we'll be able to provide supplemental material is fantastic. And I also really love the way that this was presented, where, as kind of my colleagues mentioned, you kind of see the cohorts following along. So thank you very much. I know that a lot more work went into that to kind of present it in this manner, and I really appreciate that. I do want to just kind of toss it out because I did take a look also at the kind of like the old school, like the MCAS data, and just how it was just generally, here's a state, here's a district, and here's how it performs. It just kind of, there's any theories you see, especially at the top level for exceeding expectations, throughout the elementary school and even at the high school level, crushing it, when compared to the state. It does kind of take a dip in the middle school years. And I think the exceeding expectations still is above the state average. I don't know if you had any ideas about, where, some of that momentum might have been lost. And just, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No,
I just was.
We're just processing. That's all. I think as we look at data, it's always we want to be cautious not to theorize too much. We do see, like you said, that the gap in terms of exceeding expectations does kind of close in the middle school. That may be due to a multitude of factors. We are comparing at a state level, right? So it could be more to do with the state data changing than our data changing. And when we look at the possible points and we look at the domain, they actually remain pretty steady. On the ELA side, I'll speak to, when they emerge into elementary school. So we're not necessarily seeing our scores necessarily dip. We are seeing a trend where the state may be having their own changes, which is worth looking at and exploring more in detail, and we'd be happy to do that and share.
Okay. Awesome. No, and like, really appreciate it. Like I said, I didn't want to really put you on the spot. It was just something that kind of just.
I think we also, we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to best present this data to you and the community. And I think that a missed opportunity on a slide like this is thinking about, there's a percentage of exceeding there, but then there's a percentage of meeting. And I'm always interested in, if you say, the 44% of sixth graders that were meeting, of those 44% of students, there's a big range. Some of them could be one question away from exceeding. Some of them could be one question away from partially meeting. So I'm always interested in thinking about groups of students, and within those achievement ratings, to think about like how close are we? One or two more questions, and that 44 could be several students that are spilling over into the exceeding. I think it's just another lens to look at this through.
No, that's a brilliant perspective. Thank you both very much, and Dr. Rogers as well. Really appreciate all the time that went into this, and especially just the way that it was presented was fantastic. To be able to kind of see that through line over the years was wonderful. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Just through the chair, can I just share, I heard a bunch of comments and questions, and I just wanted to go back and just tell a brief story. Last year, I can go back to illustrative math. When Dr. Rogers came on board, she was able to secure grant funding. And when I think about, we talk about the support we have and the resources we have, she secured a $60,000 grant. We were the only school district in the state that received grant funding at each of our elementary schools for math. So that was a few years ago, and we're seeing some of that. Last year, if you recall, we had a capital request for the K-5 literacy curriculum. We had put forth a number that we needed to have it for multiple years. If you remember, the capital budget disbursements across departments was lower than in previous years of what was expected. So I just pulled up my document from last year, and I wrote that we anticipate that this request would be good for a one-year contract, and we would need to fund it again. Dr. Frazier not only went and found and secured upwards of $200,000 in grant funding to get the rest of the money to get the full K through 5 multi-year. It's a 5-year contract. We don't have to pay a dime for 5 years because it's so short-sighted to spend $325 to get 1 year, but for 5 you can get 5 years. Does that make sense? You go from paying over $300,000 a year to $100,000 a year. Do you get what I mean? So that all happened after the fact. We weren't sure, but we were able to secure that over time, and that's an example of investing. So when I say the budget doesn't always support the work, we're trying to do things outside of that that allow us to have and secure those materials and funds. And my hope is that we see the effects of a multiple year approach where you're consistent with a tier 1 research-based curriculum, just like math. Districts who do things well have, can you go to your last slide? Have a high quality instructional materials, have teachers who are high quality teachers that we have. I worry with class sizes, we need to keep an eye on that. I'm not soapboxing, but I'm just trying to put this in context to when the budget season comes around, how are we able, a teacher needing to teach a reasonable amount of kids within a reasonable range is important when we think about the professional development connected to all of these. So these are just a few examples of how we try to round off and try to add to the budget to allow us to have materials like that that allow us to do the work.
Thank you very much, and a fantastic reminder just of the incredible work that your entire office does when it comes to securing grant funding. Especially, I remember with the when it was coming through as that capital request. That initially it was just going to be a capital year over year, which isn't typically, it's more long-term planning. So to be able to secure those additional fundings is absolutely amazing and incredible achievement, and it's going to pay dividends to our students. Thank you very much, and thank you for continuing to highlight that. I think it's always so important when we do highlight the grant funding and just kind of bringing in those additional revenue streams, besides just from the operating or the capital budget. So thank you all very much. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Tina. Discussion action. Okay, we'll move to discussion action items. There's one recommendation seeking your approval. You may recall earlier tonight we had the presentation from the art department on that overnight trip. So I recommend approval of the request of Diane Plouffe and Amy Edson to take the art students to the MassMoCA, Massachusetts Museum of Contemporary Art, and the Clark Museum in North Adams, Massachusetts, from March 15th and 16th, 2024, as presented.
All right. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Given that we have a committee member online, I think we're going to do a roll call
Yes.
vote, starting with Gallagher,
Yes.
Griffith,
Yes.
Charles,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
O'Sullivan,
Yes.
Sampali,
Yes.
and Callahan, yes. Any opposed? No, roll call, we're good. All right, motion carries. Then discussion only items, none on that matter. Information matters when it comes to the subcommittee reports. The vice chair and I are working for those committee assignments. We'll start to have those out very shortly and officially announced before in advance, or at least on the December 12th meeting. And I think otherwise, the Mental Health Task Force, or has there any other DEI, I don't believe, has met since.
Nope, DI meets tomorrow. I just want to highlight the CPAC event that's happening on December 5th. It's a mental health and suicide awareness sponsored by the SAFE Coalition as well. It's at 6:30 p.m. here in the central office training room. So look for it in your building-based newsletters for the link to sign up, to register.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, so then we'll move on to consent agenda.
Okay. I recommend approval of the minutes from the November 14th, 2023 school committee meeting as detailed. I recommend acceptance of a check for $2,609.86 from O'Connor Studios for in-house enrichment at Keller Elementary as detailed. I recommend acceptance of a check for $356.67 from Ohio Pile Prints for supplemental supplies for FHS as detailed.
All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as detailed?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussions, questions? All right, seeing none, again, roll call vote. Gallagher?
Yes.
Griffith?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
O'Sullivan?
Yes.
Sampali?
Yes.
And Callahan, yes. Motion passes. All right, citizens' comments. Are there any citizens in the audience, in person or online, who would like to make a comment on an item not on tonight's agenda and falls within the committee's purview? All right, seeing none, move on to new business.
Okay. New business. Before I say that, I forgot to mention the Open SciEd was almost fully grant funded as well. So shout out to the science group, Eric representing. So Open SciEd, we talked about that a little bit earlier in there. That's almost completely funded by grants, just to add to that message. As far as new business, next meeting, we will have a highlight. It will not be a school. It'll be our food service department. So Colin Poivre will be joining us to do a 12-minute highlight on the food service department. After that, we have Mrs. Patricia Gay, who is our director of the Lifelong Learning Program. She'll provide an overview of a presentation of her programming so that you can all hear about the things that are happening, before school, during the day, after school, and in the summer. And finally, I mentioned earlier, our DPW Director, Brutus Cantegoreg, will be joining us, and he'll be doing a snow presentation.
Colin is welcome to bring samples if he so wishes. All right, so then now I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, Gallagher?
Yes?
Griffith?
Yes?
Charles?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
O'Sullivan?
Yes.
Sampali?
Yes.
And Callahan is a yes. Motion passes. Thank you all very much.